as Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden says he is the one who will lead America out of what he's calling a season of darkness. So, which is it? Let's ask. Progressive commentator Ethan Behrman and Fox News contributors Deroy, Murdock, and Katie Pavlich. Thank you all for being up with us tonight.
Good to see you, Shannon.
Thanks, Shannon.
Good evening.
Okay, we asked each of you to pick a moment of significance tonight. Deroy, we'll start with you. I want to play what you selected from the former vice president, now nominee Joe Biden.
Remember the violent clash that ensued between those spreading hate and those with the courage to stand against it. He said there were, quote, very fine people on both sides. It was a wake-up call for us as a country.
All right, Deroy, why was that your pick tonight?
This is the second time I've heard Joe Biden refer to this quote in the last couple of weeks, and the left brings it up all the time, and they only give you part of the quote, which of course looks really bad for President Trump. He said actually in Charlottesville in August of 2017, there are very fine people on both sides, very fine people who are protesting very quietly, taking down of the statue of Robert E. Lee. And then he continued, I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists because they should be condemned totally. He also referred to these as rough, bad people. So the left always likes to talk about the first half of that quote, which doesn't look very good. They leave off the second half of the quote, and that's all designed to advance this lie, this narrative that President Trump is some sort of a white nationalist. And then there was also that comment about laying down the heavy burden of hate that Biden's expressed. It'd be nice if he talked about the ultimate hate, which is engaging in shootings, looting, and homicide, which have gone up dramatically in Democrat-run cities coast to coast. He's not had a thing to say about that, not heard that mentioned even once throughout this entire convention.
Well, and right on cue, one of you has a first responder's emergency siren, it sounds like, in the back of where you are. But let's go to Ethan's moment tonight. The reemergence of Hunter Biden. We heard from the Biden children tonight. Here's a bit of that.
He'll be the worst enemy any bully ever saw.
He'll be the best friend you've ever had.
He'll love you with all of his heart.
And if you give him your cell phone number,
he's going to call it.
How do we know?
Because he's been that way our whole lives.
All right, Ethan, your moment.
Yeah, a beautiful, loving family man who everybody around him, including Republicans like Cindy McCain and so many other Republicans who spoke at the Democratic convention, have said about Joe Biden. He gives it all for his family, for his country. He cares. Braden Harrington spoke tonight about how Joe Biden reached out to him as well, to work with him about their stuttering, and how Joe has reached out and called him just like he does his kids. And Bo committed to giving his life to his country by serving in Iraq and in uniform, and then sadly passed away in 2016. Joe has survived through these family tragedies and continues to give when other people would possibly, just run away to go deal with all that tragedy. He engages and gives back. I love that about Joe Biden and his family.
Yeah, there was a lot of personal side tonight. All right, Katie, you picked something from a man who also wanted to be president, spent a lot of money on it, and has now said he's going to spend tens of millions on House races. Let's hear from Michael Bloomberg.
Today, unemployment is at historic highs, and small businesses are struggling just to survive. It didn't have to be this way. Why the hell would we ever rehire Donald Trump for another 4 years?
All right, Katie, your take.
So Democrats continue this very dishonest narrative about the economy and COVID-19. And while Joe Biden was against the China embargo on travel when President Trump put that into place, calling it xenophobic, Democrats haven't explained at all, not to mention Joe Biden, about what they would do to fight COVID-19 while keeping the economy open. They keep talking about listening to health experts. Well, back in March, President Trump listened to health experts when they suggested that we shut the economy down for 15 days to slow the spread, then an additional 15 days to 30 days to slow the spread. Those were people like Dr. Fauci, Dr. Birx were encouraging the president to do those things. So the question for Michael Bloomberg is, do you think Americans are stupid and that they don't understand that this was the economy shut down as a result of the virus, not because of President Trump, when unemployment was at near historic lows under his leadership when the pandemic started? And what is the solution? How do you continue to grow the economy when President Trump is trying to open up economies while Democratic governors around the country country continue lockdowns, which are devastating to small businesses. So it's a dishonest argument they keep making, and they're not giving any solution about what Joe Biden would have done at the beginning of this. And given his record during the H1N1 pandemic, which infected 60 million Americans, he sure hasn't explained what he would do differently after criticizing the president's initial response in January.
Okay, we have seen a lot of support from a number of celebrities and high-profile athletes and musicians this week for the DNC, as we would expect. But tonight, as it wrapped up, we're hearing from actress Rose McGowan, who is not to be put in that column. Not impressed, she says, and I'm going to edit this. What have the Democrats done to solve anything? Help the poor? No. Help black and brown people? No. Stop police brutality? No. Help single mothers? No. Help children? No. You've achieved nothing. Nothing. Why did people vote Trump? Because of you, bleeps. Get a quick reaction from each of you. Deroy, to you first.
That's a great quote. That might be the end of her Hollywood career. I don't know if any Hollywood producers are going to return her calls after that. But she asked a very good question. Why do people keep voting Democrat? You know, you vote Democrat and you end up with homelessness, crime, weak economy, all sorts of chaos, rotten schools. I don't know why people vote Democrat at all.
Ethan, you're shaking your head.
She's a known Republican, spoken by a Republican. So 3 million more jobs created in the, more jobs created in the last 3 years of the Obama administration than the first 3 years of the Trump administration. We had actual better GDP growth at periods throughout the Obama administration than the Trump administration. We have Trump trying to destroy Social Security that he announced this week. Joe Biden will defend Social Security, which takes care of our older people and those who are less well off and those who have disabilities. I mean, it's clear Democrats are the ones who are going to help those in need, not Republicans.
Okay, I don't know if Rose would want to be characterized as a Republican. She's pretty far out there on some issues. But that said, Katie, final word to you.
Look, Rose is simply asking Democrats to hold themselves to the same standards that they are projecting on others, and they are claiming during this convention that they are going to solve a lot of really big problems. Well, they've had decades to do it. The cities that have been run by Democrats for decades are the ones that are burning, being looted, that have high murder rates that we haven't seen since the 1990s. And they want nationally for people to vote for Joe Biden. They haven't even mentioned a lot of the problems of the United States during this convention. So she's right about asking those questions of, if you want to be put in the White House, well, what is your record on showing that you can solve the very problems that you claim you can take on if you're just given a little more power this time around?
Well, we understand the RNC is going to highlight that and those particular problems next week. We have more of a preview of what's coming up for them a little bit later in the show. In the meantime, Katie, Deroy, and Ethan, thank you all for your time.
Thanks, Shannon.
Thanks, Shannon.